Welcome back to The Last Word. We got another great show for you. But before we get started, as always, we want you to like, comment, and subscribe. Great show today. We are talking about the NFL draft. It's that time of year. The NFL draft, this is where franchises are built, futures are decided, and one pick can change everything. All eyes are on the top 10 quarterbacks, game-changing receivers, defensive anchors. This draft is loaded with talent. Or is it? And we want to bring in our friend Karen as always. And Karen, the draft is just around the corner. And I don't know, I'll just come out and say it. Are we putting too much stake on this draft? I mean, are we sure that these players are as good as we're projecting them to be? Because right now, there's a lot of talk out there that this draft could very well be fool's gold. Now, I'm not sure, but if that's the case, what do you have to say about that? And what is your evidence that would support that comment?
Evidence? The draft? Well, drafts are what? Measured by quarterbacks, typically in the last decade or two. It's all about the quarterback. And unfortunately, in this draft is about one quarterback, clearly, and it's not even close, and that's Mendoza, right? Mm-hmm. Number one, Heisman winner, national champion. This guy is clearly number one, as Las Vegas has already had that pick in. So they're off, and they've got their plans ready for a rebuild around this potentially great young quarterback. However, the mere fact that Ty Simpson is the only other quarterback even being mentioned, potentially being drafted in the first round, lets you know that this draft is naturally not one of star-studded quarterbacks, or a large amount of great quarterbacks.
And it's funny that you should say that. It's funny you should say that because let's look at the key difference between the two. Ty Simpson, great quarterback, great numbers, great success. But in the NFL...
Early in the year.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
The reason why he's no longer even considered... Because again, at the start of the season, you could have him, more from Oregon, Mendoza. Those are and again, Manning was, people are on watching out to see what Manning potentially could have done. Those are the kind of names that were involved at the start of the year, mid-season, and then at the end of the year, it merely was just Mendoza, Simpson, and the fall off at Alabama. So again, it's about that 5 years of having control over the contract of your quarterback is why Simpson may even get drafted in the first round, because someone sees the value in that.
So we're talking Ty Simpson, the second best quarterback in this draft, right?
Yeah.
Now, the question that we have to ask you, like you said, franchises are pretty much built on quarterbacks. The league is pretty much built. The MVP trophy is pretty much a quarterback's trophy. So I want to ask you this. How much success has the NFL seen with a quarterback at 6'1", just barely over 200 pounds?
Well, the first name a lot of people will draw on it would be naturally Drew Brees, right? Quarterback,
okay,
6 foot.
That's reaching, but you're right. That's reaching.
Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion. So people will say that there is a route of that, right? Still lately
though, since the Drew Brees, there hasn't been anything close to a quarterback that height that has seen.
People also again say
Kyler Murray,
Wilson, archetype.
Kyler Murray.
The Kyler Murray is a rough one. Again, he does have a outstanding arm, and people.
What about
always,
Young?
They'll always talk about potential, right?
Carolina.
Potential. Young is fortunately that they were patient enough, and again, to see, and didn't jump out ahead of things, and with any contracts with him, and allowed him to prove himself. And he's gotten better over the years now, and to the place where he's brought him into the playoffs last year. So
Yeah.
again, yeah,
He's a
smaller
lot
frame
smaller.
quarterback.
He's a lot smaller than Mendoza. Mendoza's what,
No,
6'5",
no, I'm not talking
230
about in
pounds. He seems
comparison.
like he's NFL ready.
Not in
He
comparison to Mendoza, but
okay,
you're just talking about in as a guy who can play in the NFL,
just a guy to play in the
potentially
NFL.
be successful in the NFL.
And right now I'm thinking like you're saying the second best overall quarterback in the draft is going to fall to the second round. So
Uh,
this
you
draft
know what?
potentially could be filled
Not
with.
likely, not likely, because again, there's those teams like Arizona at the top end of the second round who
Ooh,
may find interest in trading into the back of the first round to draft Ty Simpson if they deem him a guy that they could move forward with, along with the Jets potentially as well. Those type of teams that could trade into that back spot because they want that additional year, that 5 years of certainty on the contract with that quarterback.
I don't know. I can't see Arizona. You're thinking Arizona's going to take Ty Simpson or might take Ty Simpson with the third overall pick in this
Not
year's
the
draft?
no, not the third overall pick. Listen to what I'm saying. They have an early pick in the second round. They would package that pick with another pick, maybe, and
Okay.
with another pick, and move into the 24th or 25th
Okay.
spot
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Okay. Okay.
draft him there, not with their
Okay.
third overall pick. No, that's crazy.
Okay. Let's look at
I'm
running
saying
backs quickly. Jeremiah Love. Uh, is this another situation where it could be like he had a great year? Reminds me somewhat like a Joe Mixon. You know, Joe Mixon came out and he had big aspirations with the Bengals, and they were quick to let him go.
that's an interesting comparison you dropped there, because to hear most analysts, right, speak, you hear them call the names of like Bijan Robinson, right,
Yeah, yeah.
or the likes of um, uh, Christian McCaffrey type guys, more versatile type guys who can, catch, pass, run,
But
be a three down back.
we
And
want to be
yeah,
realistic.
yeah, you got to be more realistic. You shouldn't really, I guess, put that type of pressure on guys, or even that type of comparable, like Hall of Famers or perennial All Pro guys. It's tough because, again, we've heard for years and years now, too, not to draft a running back high in the draft. Why? Because eventually, when it comes to that second contract, you're gonna
Right.
have to you're gonna have to pay big money for this running back. We've seen it with the Giants. We've seen it. We've seen it. Sorry, with McCaffrey, which they chose to, I believe,
For
extend him at that time before he got
right.
traded. But it is a tough decision, and for a franchise to draft a running back that high, that franchise has to have a lot of pieces in place. I would say
Does
you need your quarterback in place. You need to have a decent line, because if you have no line, that running back is going to be he's not going to be very useful. We've seen it this year with Genti in Las Vegas, right? They drafted him high last year, and unfortunately, it didn't look that great. That's 1 year off the deal already, 1 year closer to having to pay him, right? And you see now, hopefully it works in year two, now that you got your franchise quarterback. They've made some additions to their line, and hopefully that can get him going, and that pick won't look so bad.
based on the
But
climate of the league right now,
you need to have certain things in place to draft a running back as high as people are talking about drafting Love. So
does
right away,
Love make the top 10?
yeah, for sure, he's in the top 10 for sure.
Does he make the top 5?
Top five,
You're
realistically,
talking. Okay, he's not going to Las Vegas.
No,
He's not going to New York.
no.
Cardinals.
Now we start potentially. But you see, if the Cardinals do it, that's a mistake.
Big time.
Their team has too many holes. They don't have their quarterback. Their line is questionable. That they're in the toughest division, I would say, probably in football. Like, they need to do things the right way. They need to either trade. if they can find a sucker to trade up for that third pick, and they can get multiple assets, that's what the Cardinals need to be doing.
So
They
then
have too many holes.
you got two more teams left. You got the Tennessee Titans. You got New York Jets, Giants.
Again, Titans. Just cut and paste what I said about the Arizona Cardinals, pretty much. But the Titans actually have their quarterback of the future with Ward, so at least that they have. But the rest of their squad, they have a lot of work to do. But this is where I can see realistically the first team taking Love at 4, with the Titans, with the belief that we have our franchise quarterback. We can do a lot of things with our other picks to fill in maybe, and I can see it there. The Giants at 5. The G. LT, respect.
Yeah.
Okay. For the Giants.
You're taking Love at 5 for the Giants?
Me personally, I would say no. The Giants have Cam Scatterboo. Yeah, that's fine.
He's not coming back on time.
Again, he suffered an injury, right?
That was
again, to me, running
big
back,
time injury. I don't think he's coming back 100% healthy for the beginning of the season.
Again,
no way.
You could find another running back later in the draft who can work in unison with Scatterboo, by commission.
Right.
And you'd be fine at that position. To me, the Giants should be looking at one of those. The Giants should come away with at least one Ohio State player, whether that's Arvell, linebacker styles, safety, cornerback, defensive back, Downs.
All right.
Even out of the stretch, Cardinal Tate, the wide receiver. But from a lot of discussions, the Giants seem to love Jordan.
Jeremiah Love?
No, I'm blanking on the Arizona wide receiver.
Harrison
Jordan,
Jr.?
I believe his name's Jordan. But a lot of people are saying that. But the Giants need to be walking away at least as one of those Ohio State defenders, whether it's at 5 or 10.
So here's where I want to sort of turn a twist to this whole draft thing. If you ask me, based on what I'm seeing, I am not sure, or I'm not certain that Jeremiah Love is a top 10 player or top 10 pick in this draft. I mean, like you just said it. These running backs, you're going to decide. Are you going to want to pay these running backs? Can these running backs make a real big difference for the offense? I mean, there are some running backs that can do it, i.e., of course, McCaffrey. There are some, you got King Henry. There are some running backs are just generational talents, but that's just once in a lifetime. And very rarely do you see that on the first contract. They got, so I'm not sure that Jeremiah Love warrants a top 10 pick if you're looking for someone to really build your franchise on. Now,
and that's where the big conversation is around this draft, because there's so few quarterbacks, right? And there's so few defensive ends, high-end defensive ends. So it's either in football really is quarterback, protect the quarterback, hit the quarterback, right? Yeah. Catch the ball.
Yep.
Those positions are the highest paid positions: wide receiver, offensive line, defensive end, quarterback. And in this draft, unfortunately, there's a shortage of high-end guys at those positions. So it's very understandable why Love now is deemed a guy that you may take that risk with this year, because, hey, you got to throw that positional value out a little bit this year and just take any of the guys that you believe are going to be high-end star, all-pro level players, and just bump your regular thought process this year.
Well, I mean, you raise some great points, but I still cannot give the stamp of approval for. You're feeling a lot of pieces, and the quarterback draft is not as appealing as prior years, but still, top 10 for your running back. Can you really swallow that in this stage of the game? Like,
again, to me, it's about the team, right? To be honest, best place for him to land really would be probably to the Commanders, who again are a year removed from the conference finals,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
you would instantly see an impact running back with a team ready to go and compete.
Right. Okay.
As long as Daniels is healthy and playing at the level closer to his first year, right?
Right. Right. Because the sixth pick, Cleveland, they're not gonna. They just drafted. Was it Gibson
No.
last year? So they're not gonna. They're not picking him up. Uh, let's look at some
They got
defensive. Let's look at some defensive ends. You're talking about defensive ends and how valuable they are. If you ask me, they're one of
yeah,
the most
yeah. Again, hit the
valuable
quarterback,
assets to this draft that could ever
hit the
be.
quarterback, protect the quarterback,
Right?
be the quarterback, catch the ball, right? And
So
this year we got a couple of them up there. We got Arvell at Ohio State. We got Bailey, Texas Tech, I believe, and
Bane,
yeah, those two guys are clearly high end
Falk,
potential. Although Bailey is considered more of a true pass rusher,
right?
and Arvell more of the all around jack of all trades,
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what the Jets do at number 2.
Ooh, you think they're taking Bailey?
Man, they finished like last in sacks last year. So you got to believe that they're taking a defensive end, and I would believe that you're going to take the guy you believe can just wreak havoc in that backfield. But it would be hard to skip on an Ohio State guy. Ohio State guys just they don't bust. They don't bust. Typically they don't bust, and you know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a high level competitor. Man, it's gonna be interesting. So I would assume the Jets pick Bailey, and if that's the case, I'm gonna lean to him not probably achieving what people believe he can, just on that mere fact.
Yeah, well, I see Bailey going number one. I could definitely see him going to
You mean
the.
number 2?
Sorry, number two. Number one
Yeah.
to the Jets, but yeah, overall pick number 2.
Yes.
The one thing that I have a problem with it because the Jets, they need to really hit on this one. Is Bailey that true number 2 pick? And I think there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. You might destroy the guy's career because he's going to New York Jets, which is not the best of franchises. He's going number 2 overall, which is a lot of pressure because he's expected to be a difference maker on the field right away. Going number 2, he's actually expected to make a lot of big plays.
Yeah, and it's easy for those things to fall apart too. Again, you know me, I'm a Giants supporter, and the Giants drafted Abdul Carter last year,
Yeah,
high in the draft, and he had, I don't even know, 2 sacks last year, right? It's an adjustment coming into the league, bigger, faster, stronger guys, and you may look like one thing in college. But when you come up against the NFL and these grown men,
it's a different ball game.
it can quickly become a different ballgame.
Let's quickly look at the tight ends. Right now, I think if you're looking at someone that can really make an impact to your team right away, let's talk about Kenyon Sadiq. Everybody has been ranting and raving about this kid. I mean, this kid is compared to and I'm going to tell you these names, and you probably can just remember and just imagine what I'm thinking about. Think about Vernon Davis back in 2006. Vernon Davis is a player that I'm thinking of that sort of mimics Sadiq's game the most. Tough, strong, runs routes, can block.
Yeah.
I mean, what can't he do? I think he's most prepared, and his structure, I mean, he's definitely built for this game. So when you ask me, I think Sadiq at 6'3", 240, he could be a problem. He's really, really, really fast, right?
Again,
he ran the 40 in, I think, 4.3.
You're calling out another one of those positions that typically you don't want to overdraft on a tight end, right? But again, it's paid off, and we look at Las Vegas again. I'm Las Vegas. I can't believe I've mentioned them this many times. But you see what they did, and they drafted Bowers, and what he's become, right? He's a special talent over there, and Mendoza's going to have a solid option right from day one there.
You
So
know,
whoever is taking Sadiq may have to again go against the grain of, hey, typically we shouldn't be drafting him here this high,
so Karen,
but
I
he's gonna
like
be
I
he
like what you're
potentially is one of
saying.
the
I
better
like what you're saying.
talents in this
I
draft.
like what you're saying, but I have to look at the climate of the NFL over the last couple
Yeah.
of years, right? You look at Kansas City winning big with a big tight end. You
Yeah.
look at the likes of Baltimore Ravens. Should have won big, but failed to win big based upon poor tight end play, right? You talk about the New England Patriots when they were when
Untimely play,
it
untimely play.
still
Because let's be
happened.
honest, Andrews and Likely are both solid tight ends. Andrews multiple Pro Bowl tight end. Likely a guy who now is with the Giants. Um,
Again,
he's another guy who's a great pass catcher, real solid runner from that position. So yeah, the tight
but
end position can cause a lot of mismatches,
it
and
can.
it's a place for, and usually is a safety net for a quarterback, especially a
And
young
that's
quarterback.
all I'm saying. In a draft where you can get away with drafting a tight end so early because
Yeah,
a lot of these players outside of the number one pick aren't really franchise changing players, right? So they're, like you say, they're glue pieces. They're glue pieces. I mean, but are you expecting to find your Lamar Jackson, expect to find your Joe Burrow or your Josh Allen out of this draft? I mean, there's only one name that speaks that kind of, talent,
yeah,
which
but
is
again, typically, again,
Mendoza.
a football team is franchise player is the quarterback. This draft has a one, maybe two quarterbacks, right?
And that's why I'm
That
saying you
could
can
potentially
get
be that.
away with
So
picking any other position after, well, not any other position, but you could
uh,
possibly get away
because
with.
because there's a lack of other high end, like let's say left um offensive linemen, like tackles, high end tackles. So there's a few solid guards, but very few tackles.
Yeah,
So yeah, you in a draft, if it was deep with tackles, you'd be drafting those tackles in that top 10. Obviously, if there was high end defensive ends, edge rushers, you'd be drafting those guys. Again, receivers. There's good depth of receivers in this draft. Special? I
that's
I
a
wouldn't
question.
I wouldn't
Good
I wouldn't lean
receivers.
that way.
I mean, think about it. The New York Giants, you know what they're doing, right? Your favorite player is working out for your team, OBJ.
Well, hey, they need
If they're talking about bringing back OBJ into the league,
again.
you know
It's a
what
field.
this draft is telling
Hey,
you.
let's not forget he was over there in Baltimore
You
with
know,
Hardball.
don't do it.
So
Come on,
we
he
know
has
we know
been.
there's some type of relationship. Hardball is called on. This is football. Football, you're gonna call on guys you're familiar with that you can depend on. You know their character. That's why Harborough bringing over Lively to me says something about his character, his
Yeah,
football
he's
character,
playing it
right off the
safe.
jump.
He's playing it safe. He can't make any
Odell
mistakes.
Beckham, a relationship with Hardball as well for his time at Baltimore. Yeah, you're bringing him in. You were going to bring in some guys who know what you do, how you do it, and yeah, you know that his football character aligns with what you're trying to produce. So yeah, it makes sense.
Well, okay. Well, again, it makes sense for you to pick
Hey,
anything after Mendoza after the number
again,
one pick because, like I said, if Odell
let me
Beckham
ask you.
Jr.
Let
is
me ask you
coming
quickly
back
on
to
that,
play
though.
for the New York Giants, then I'm
Do
just
you
saying, like
is there
a
going to be a
third
lot? Do you
rounder.
think there's going to be a lot of trades in this draft?
No, no.
Because we do have like what is it, five, six
You
teams
know
with
what you know what I do.
two
I
first round
suspect
picks.
not
So
there's not going to be a lot of trades, but there'll be one or two big trades. I don't think there's going to be a lot of trades, but maybe one or two big trades. Like Max Crosby, I think he's finding a new home. It doesn't make sense for him to stay in Vegas. Do you think so? I don't. I think at his age, he's still in the prime of his career. Let's not get it twisted. Coming off an injury, he needs to go somewhere else where he can, similar to a Micah Parsons, he needs to go somewhere else where he could compete for a championship because Vegas isn't 2, 3, 4 years away. Vegas is somewhat, well, maybe Tom Brady might give up part of his ownership stake and come back on the field.
To me, it's going to be interesting because again, we're in a draft where there's not a lot of quarterbacks, so there's not going to be a natural need to trade up or that desperation to trade up for or to reach for that franchise quarterback. So that to me already tells me probably less trades. And then again, if a lot of these players are seen as on par, or it's just more of a team fit situation, again, another reason for less movement. If I can get that guy a couple picks down anyways, or he'll just fall to me, or I'll just take whichever of these three guys fall to us. And again, another situation for less trades. There's what, 5 teams with two first round picks. And Giants, Jets, Browns, Dolphins, Cowboys, and the Chiefs. So 6, excuse me, have two picks in the first rounds. So again, are these teams going to be looking to they're not going to realistically merge their picks and try to move up or at not if you're seeing a lot of the guys in the same. And again, if we're throwing out positional value because with all those premier positions are not really available, or there's not a lot of players for those positions in this draft. I'm feeling a just stand pat draft, or at least for the first round.
All right, I'm gonna give you a final word. Is this draft hot or not?
I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting in terms of let's see how teams fill their holes and how they view reaching on taking a position that's not deemed that valuable.
Okay.
So we're going to see that whether it's Love, Sadiq at tight end, those two really stand out to me. How high our team's going to pick those two guys,
well,
and abandon the standard of the draft.
Well, that is the longest not I've ever heard, but yeah, it's the NFL. It should be interesting.
Everything's a hit. It's the NFL, man.
We'll be back, and hopefully there won't be too much surprises with this draft. Last word.